Okay. I wanted to start off asking about the development of the documentary, what really interested you in making the film, and how did the project really get going?
Yeah, the film started in 2016, and it kind of began with an attempt to understand what many people call the Tale of Two Cities in Omaha. There was, a lot of um, disparity in Omaha between the Black community and the white community when it came to just employment and violence statistics and just general achievement. And I was trying to understand what led to this disconnect and why our city seemed to have, such a intense disparity. So that's kind of how I began in 2016 is when the election came and Trump came into power, and so everything was really changing. And It was from that point that I really got to know some of the activists in Omaha, and they challenged me to really take a holistic viewpoint on making the film, which included kind of looking at myself and my own role and kind of understanding myself if I wanted to tell this kind of story. And so that's how it evolved and how I ended up kind of taking a more personal angle. And I think when I did, the film opened up in a really cool way.
I'm going on to direct the film. What was that experience like for you, with this being like your first film that you directed? What was that approach like, once you began production?
Yeah, I mean, it was a learning process every step of the way. I mean, I think I made a lot of mistakes, but grew from all of them and just kind of kept at it. I mean, this was a true grassroots film that started from nothing. So I had to learn how to operate a camera, I had to learn how to organize a shoot, how to hire crew, how to produce, how to fundraise, how to market. I mean, every aspect of the filmmaking process was new, not just the directing side of it. So, um, yeah, I think there was just a lot of trial and error, and I think when you've spent 8 years making a film, eventually you do kind of find your footing and you find what your strengths are and also what your weaknesses are so that you can um, get help from those that are better at certain things than you. And I think over time I was able to do that. I ended up working with an incredible crew, and that's what was really gratifying is when I found the right people to work with. The film and the story got so much better.
And speaking also of the cinematography in particular and that aspect of the filmmaking, how did you figure out what kind of shots you wanted to do and use it for the film, and really how to use the cameras, and what was that experience like?
Yeah, well, I mean, I started from a place of being practical, I mean, it was sort of a backpack journalism style of shooting. I wanted to be able to have a very minimalist camera that could shoot for a long time, easy to operate, but I also wanted to get high quality 4K footage. So um, I ended up shooting most stuff on a Panasonic GH5S, which is a really great camera for all of those reasons. Um, when shooting like the scenes with my dad, the personal side of the film, um, I wanted to make sure that we had coverage for the shots, but also it was really important to me that it was just me and him when we talked. So I had some kind of elaborate setups at times where I would have three cameras going, but actually no one behind them. I would kind of hit record and then sit down. Kind of had a clock in my head about how long we would have to record. So it was very unconventional shooting style in many ways, but it ended up working out.
And including, speaking about including interviews with your father and family, and including those personal scenes, and what does that mean to you to have those interviews and those moments together, in the film as well?
It means a lot. I'm so grateful that my dad did this with me. It was a huge undertaking on his part to be so vulnerable and open and honest and to share his perspective with the world. I mean, I think that we both saw this as a service to others to tell our story, to show our relationship so that other people could hopefully take something away from it and learn from it. And so to have that documented it means a lot. And also the film was such a great way for me and him to really bond in such a difficult time. Anyone who's had a loved one who's gone through cancer knows that it's a brutal process. Everything from the diagnosis to treatments to the pain of the disease. It's so hard to watch a loved one go through that. And so to have the film memorialize that aspect of his life too, really means a lot to me. It's something I'll always value.
And how did you decide also who else to include in the film, especially with like the activists and that side of the story? What was that experience like in securing those interviews as well?
Yeah, it's a good question because over the course of time, I met so many different people, and there actually were a lot of others who I filmed a lot with that um, aren't in the film as much, but that I hope maybe to do more with one day. But Leo Lewis, in particular, his authenticity just struck me from the very beginning when I met him in the scene that you see in the film. It's the really the first time I met this person is was his like display of courage at this meeting. I just knew that this was someone that I needed to meet. I kind of had a gut feeling. And I think what ended up validating that was that Leo was super open and honest with me about collaborating on this. And like I said earlier, about challenging me about doing it in a certain way. So that instinctual feeling of kind of measuring his authenticity, it checked out. It turned out to be true. I mean, after several years, when you get to know a person, actually, you do see that. And then it went both ways. He saw that I was committed to doing this. When he saw that I was, year 4, year 5 into making this film, and I hadn't given up, even though our progress was going slow. I think he had a lot of respect for that, and so we just ended up forming a really great relationship. And he also was doing such important things in the city that it was important to continue documenting his work.
And how did you decide also what you would focus on asking the participants and the people you interviewed in the film and what you wanted to discuss and showcase during your time together?
I always would do a lot of preparation for interviews. But at the same time, many of the conversations ended up being very fluid and organic. And I always gave everyone I talked to an opportunity to ask me questions. And oftentimes that's what generated the most interesting dialogue. So, I tried to keep a very open mind every time I talked with someone. And that's why I think the film, even though it has a lot of interviews, it doesn't feel like a interview-driven movie because the interviews are more like real life conversations, I think. And that was sort of what I hoped would it would feel like that people were really witnessing a moment in an exchange of ideas rather than like a something more formal.
And while you were making the film, what was your experience like also in producing and getting the project going in that sense as well?
Yeah, well, learned a lot producing the film as well. I think that that aspect uh, came actually maybe most naturally to me. I I think very quickly was able to find the right people in Omaha that believed in the project and was able to get some support, which meant the world. I connected with a church called First United Methodist Church that was filming a lot of um, conversations regarding like racial justice and just other social justice things. And that community became a really big rock for the film. And we got a lot of support and donations that helped us really elevate the project to be a professional project, to do our first level of editing. And then from there, again, kind of through trial and error, I was able to hire a good team and learn from them. And Yeah, I think I'm really proud of actually how the film came together from a producing perspective. I mean, a lot of times, people like will go into like major debt making a film. I feel lucky that that didn't happen here, that we were able to get it done. And and also grateful that we got support from so many organizations. We got grants from institutions in Nebraska and other places in the Midwest, and it's really cool to have gotten that support. It's very validating.
And also, speaking about the editing, what was that process like as well, and figuring out what the final version of the film?
Yeah, we edited off and on for about 2 years. I worked with several editors, um, worked with Summers Henderson, Jordan Montminy, and Maeve O'Boyle. Maeve, Maeve O'Boyle came on as a consulting editor and really changed the game for our film. She's an incredible editor and an incredible director too. Um, and when I came to her, like we had kind of a rough cut and actually a couple different versions, and just she really helped us shape it and maximize our material into the best possible version. I learned so much in such a short time with her about just music choices and kind of like what we could cut and what we could keep and what we could extend. Um, I really don't think it was until working with her that I actually had faith that we had a film. It was such a difficult edit to make these two storylines weave together. And working with Maeve, we really found a way. So, everyone who worked with me on the editing of this over the years made a contribution. People from Omaha to people from all over the country, but ultimately, connecting with Maeve, we got it over the line, and I'm forever grateful for her impact because I don't think we would be here today. I don't think it would have got, into Slamdance if it wasn't for Maeve and how her magic touch that she helped bring.
Speaking of slam dance, what does it mean to you that the movie's premiering at the festival and you'll be able to share the movie with the audience there?
Yeah, it means the world. I have such respect for the festival. It's like when you're an independent filmmaker, it's one you look at and you always hope that you get a chance to be in it because of the history of the festival. I mean, even its founding, it's co-founded by Dan Mervish. He's actually from Omaha, and so I always thought that was very cool too. Yeah, it means a lot. I mean, particularly because they really champion true independent films, and I think that's what this movie was. It was an independent movie. It was a grassroots film, um, and they saw that, and so to be recognized and accepted in that capacity, it's very gratifying. And I'm also excited to meet the other filmmakers from this year and to kind of be a part of that class.
And after the movie screens at Slam Dance, what's coming up next in terms of maybe other festivals or that you can also discuss, or maybe sharing the footage that you didn't include in the final version of the film? Are you planning to maybe release some of the more of that footage in another film or on social media, or just what's coming up next with the story?
So, yeah, we're hoping to that this is kind of the first of several festivals on a festival run. So, we're pending with many across the country and across the world. So, if people follow us online on our socials, they'll see where we're playing next. So hoping, that we'll have more runs later this year. And then, you know, I'm I would really love to make another film about Nebraska. I have a lot of ideas. Some of them I think could use some of the footage we have because I have so much left over, and others I think, are a totally different kind of movie. But um, and I also have ideas for other personal docs as well. So I think there's a lot of cool opportunities, out there. I'm kind of open-minded to see kind of what feels right for the next film.
Yeah, I think that was mainly it, but thank you again for taking the time to speak with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to do it.
Great, thanks again.